Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about red and green flags. So let's get into it. So the question in question was a little bit of a story. Hi Frederick, I'm currently studying computer science at a renowned German university while I would graduate next year. I engage a lot with technology, love to learn, and always have one or two projects on the side for fun. I've also had a programming job for 2 years where I learned a lot, and I want my first full-time job to have a great mentor like the one I had at this job. What should I look for when I'm looking at companies? What are the most common red and green flags when it comes to mentoring? How can I prepare myself to for these companies so that these companies are more likely to offer me a job and that fits these needs? Right. So when you're looking for your first job or so forth, I usually say that the first thing that is worth considering is what stage is the company that you're applying to, like where are they right now. So it almost always comes down to the people that you're going to work with, but a general rule is that smaller companies have less money, and that usually translates into shorter deadlines, which puts more pressure on you. I like to say that one of the best insights that you can have as both an organization, honestly, and as a software developer is what is the company structure and the work practices that are on those IT projects that you have within the company. What skill level do they require of the person? So some companies don't really have, like, they're kind of detached from how complex or how easy their systems are to work with. And something I find quite often is that you hire, say, junior software developers for a project where the complexity of the system is at a senior level, or like circumstances makes it basically impossible for anybody but a senior to work on it. And that is a very key insight. It's actually the tip that I give to my employers today, that if you can do anything, as if you can have any North Star goal or anything like that as an IT company, apart from, of course, delivering good software and good products and so forth, in the technical space, the best insight that you can have is to figure out how do we make it feasible for us to hire less experienced junior at a lower cost and still have them produce really good software for us. So, because the ideal, I mean, from a business point of view, it's really, really great if the software you are developing is working, filling all their customer requirements and so forth, but the people doing the work can be at the lower end of costs and experiences like that. That is a very good spot for you to be in. But if you have a high complex system architecture or code base or things like that, what happens basically is that the only option you have is to hire more experienced people, because those are the only people who will be able to work on the project without impacting quality and like all of these sorts of things, right? And so for you as a junior, that is a very good insight to sort of understand that some projects or some companies, they have a setup, like their business is, or in their system has been developed in such a way that it's kind of tricky for you to be a part of that. So that's the first thing to really look at, like what type of company are you getting into? Because if, as I said, if they have, even in a big company, guys, this can happen, and that is very tricky. It's very, very tricky to figure out if that's going to happen or not for you, but it is something to watch out for. Because even in a big company, they might have, in the wrong team, you have a product owner who just always puts you in a position where you're always late, you're always on a sharp deadline, and so forth and so forth. There's nothing you can do about it. But a general good rule is that smaller companies have less money, therefore it's usually more pressure and on delivery and quality, and or at least delivery speed and things like that. Mid-sized to larger companies are on average a little bit calmer because they have more, well, it usually moves a little bit slower. That's all I'm going to say on that. Not always true though. Make sure that you get a feel for things if at all possible. And then if we talk about red flags or things like that, I would say that the best thing you can do is to try to be transparent about what level you are, and then ask about mentorship and like how do the company, like what if you started in this company, what type of mentorship could you expect, and like where are they going to put you? Because if they have no plan, if they like have no idea of like how do you coach, say, a junior. They don't actually provide you with a mentor or anything like that. That's a pretty big red flag, I would say. If their idea is, especially if they want to do something like, yeah, we have this new project or this side thing or something like that, where they're basically going to put you alone, that's a red flag, big red flag. If they're going to put you alone in somewhere like that, that's basically them trying to put you in a position where you're going to learn some stuff, but in essence, it's a strategy that some companies use, which I very much dislike. I understand it, but at the same time, I'm not really fond of it. And what they will do, especially this is very common for internships, for example, where they have some half-baked system or some like low-code solution or something like that isn't really quote-unquote a real software development, and they just try to find someone who has some basic tech knowledge to take care of the testing or the tech support or things like that for them for a low cost, because that's all they really need you to do. And so they basically do is that they justify putting you in a sort of irrelevant, in a sense, for your long-term career position, and quote unquote just, they're giving you an opportunity. Well, yeah, they're giving you an opportunity to take care of their mess, but they're not actually putting you on real software development projects. That's a really big flag. That's the biggest red flag that you can look for, in my opinion, like the nature of where you're going to work. So make sure that you're checking that. Green flag in there in this area is if they say, oh, you're going to join one of our software teams. If they're gonna put you with some people and they have some idea of how, like, yeah, you can ask your seniors or things like that. If you're gonna work with other developers, that's a very, very good thing. It's one of the best green flags that you can have, at least in my opinion. And then as for, doing the things that you will need to do in order to have a good chance to get into these companies, you've already mentioned that you're passionate for your work, which is a very, very good sign. For, like, usually I say that the two main things that a junior software developer has to communicate in any interview that they go to is, number one, show that you have a genuine passion and interest for the field and the work. Second thing is, make sure that you seem like a good investment, that you're someone who is driven and has like technical like aptitude and things like that. And you've already described to me in your comment here that you really enjoy what you do and you have one or two side projects. Those two things are like, you're hitting both of those like immediately. Like, these are the social aspects, because usually companies, when they invest in a junior software developer, because it is basically an investment from the perspective of most companies, they're looking for those two things. They're looking for someone who's going to learn really, really quickly and who really, really wants to learn, and like who has the social graces and like is a good presence in the environment. Because when they're putting you with their seniors and so forth, it's about being socially able to maneuver around coworkers who might be more experienced than you, but also being very open with that you are new and having but you have the desire to learn, and you're going to try your darndest and like really, really do what you can to become productive as quickly as possible, because that's the thing they're looking for: good culture, like social fit, and getting up to speed fairly quickly. Those things are super, super important. And then one tiny thing I can mention is make sure that you practice a little bit like algorithms and lead coding questions and stuff like that, because even if you are very good, you hit these other things I've talked about, if you do those well, you usually are going to face some type of coding challenge, and it's almost 50-50 between some type of computer science algorithm type of thing and doing what I call a real coding challenge, where they have like some sample application that you're going to build something within, or you're going to fix some bugs. So like it varies a bit, but the more realistic code tests are not as computer sciencey focused, but the industry uses both, and it's almost impossible to say which company is going to use one or the other. So what I want you to take away from this is that green flags for looking for, like when you're a junior or something like that, is mid to large range companies. Not always true. There are smaller companies who do this as well. It always comes down to the people, because if you have a really shitty boss in a large company who just puts a lot of pressure on you, you can have the same problem. But the reason why I mention it is because usually bigger companies have more money and things move a little bit slower. Not always true. And then other things that are a green flag, make sure that they're going to put you with other software developers, or like you're going to be part of a team or something like that. Really, really big red flags are if they're going to put you alone on something, or if they're going to have you do something that is not directly like core business software development or something like that, because then you can very quickly become exploited. It's very common that this happens. They put you on some help desk thing, or like support or testing or something completely irrelevant to your software development career, frankly speaking, and they do that for usually selfish reasons, because they don't really care about your future. They care about cutting cost and having someone do a job for them that they want to get away cheap on the sheep for to do. And then make sure that the thing that you already communicated, you're already doing the right things. Make sure that you're learning, having some side projects, like so forth and so forth. Try to communicate that as much as humanly possible when you're in the interviews, because that is the thing that 90%, I would go as far to say, of the companies are looking for when they're investing in juniors, because you're not going to be able to bring the seniority to the company. But if they're already looking for a junior, they're usually looking for someone who has high aptitudes, like really pushing it and will quickly learn, and someone who really wants to learn, someone who really loves this. That is super, super important. And then lastly, make sure that you mix a little bit. Personal projects, super, super good. I like to say 80-20, 80% personal projects and things like that, 20% lead coding and like algorithms and a few of these sorts of things, because the theory does matter. And in some, it's almost impossible to say if they're going to put you on like a diehard computer sciencey question type of deal in the interview versus like a more realistic coding project. So think about those two things. That's a very important thing. Have a great day.